I'm in the mood to have people pissed off at me today. So we're going to talk about race. No, we're not going to have a conversation about race. I ain't running for president. I ain't trying to get out from something my dumb shit pastor said. We're going to talk. Or rather, I'm going to talk, and you're going to listen, and then bitch at me in the comments. Same basic idea, though. Part of what we're going to talk about is how any discussion involving race tends to end with someone feeling they've been insulted. So let's inoculate that shit right here by insulting everyone right off the bat. Ahem.
White people, shut up. Shut the fuck up. The world isn't ending just because you now own slightly less of it. Also, this dickbag, this bitch, that's your fault. Do something about it. Black people, the subwoofer was never ever meant to be weaponized. Once the movie starts, shut the fuck up. This is your fault. Do something about it. Spanish people, solo porque el blanco chicos y negro chicos no pueden entender lo que usted está diciendo no significa que no puede decir cuando es derogatory, smartass. También, esta es tu culpa. Hacer algo al respecto. Asians. Well, I like him. Holy shit. Whew. Damn. I actually got no problem with you guys. None whatsoever. Indians. Sorry. Jews. Love him. Love her. These guys rock. Isn't she Jewish too? Yes. Nope, no issue here. Keep up the good work, boys. Shalom.
Now, is that a little juvenile? Probably yes. Crude and over the top? You must be new here. Point is, let's everyone get mad now, pause the clip if necessary, let it all out. Or be privately snarky about how played out this whole tick everyone off first shtick is, and let's do this thing. So, the reason to talk about race in video games now is Resident Evil 5, or rather the trailer for Resident Evil 5, which has by now been picked over and analyzed more times than a Cloverfield viral of Lindsay Lohan going down on Tila Tequila as filmed by Abraham Zapruder. For those luckily unaware of all this until now, the trailer was the first real reveal that the anticipated sequel would be relocating the survival horror franchise to Africa.
My initial reaction to that was, hey, that's pretty cool, since it's something you're not expecting. Most horror stories do their business in mundane, ordinary places, to make the scary stuff that much more so. It's something else entirely to drop the zombies, or whatever it's going to be this time, into a region that's often scary enough, but with all the wild animals, crippling poverty, near-constant civil wars, and an omnipresence of AIDS so thick that the local warlords' roving death squads can cut it with their machetes.
Yes, I know. Africa is a beautiful country with a rich and storied history, but right now it's one of the last places on Earth most people would be if they could help it. It's sad, it's tragic, it's largely a long-term byproduct of the grim legacy of colonialism, but it's also a fact. In any case, the trailer features residents of a sun-bleached African shantytown going all 28 days later and attacking what appears to be franchise mainstay Chris Redfield. For the uninitiated, Chris Redfield is the whitest video game hero since Guybrush Threepwood, and he's a member of make-believe tactical law enforcement team STARS. So what we have here is a white guy with a badge gunning down hordes of Africans who are advancing on him like shrieking savages. And I wonder if anyone's going to have a cow about this. Sure enough, by now the question is if anyone won't have a cow, a list that does not include N'Gai Croal, the multi-talented tech writer whose name I'm probably mangling and who manages the video game blog for Newsweek. Wait, stop. Before we get to Mr. Croal, we might as well once again reiterate that video games come from Japan. And nowhere is that more apparent than in the area of ethnic representation. You see, Japan is and remains a largely monoracial uniculture. Ergo, the Japanese tend to sort one another out by appearance, using a different visual language entirely than the ones we have here in the Western melting pot. For that reason, and a dozen or so others that'd take a whole other video to summarize, ethnic representation in video game characters up until the recent advent of photorealism has tended to fall under the heading of totally vague or cartoonish stereotype. Just how bad did that last one get? In Street Fighter, the only two Japanese guys are a martial artist and a sumo who beats you up in a bathhouse. And it's a Japanese game! I guess they let themselves off better than India. I mean, Dalsim Stage might as well have a slush puppy machine and a sign indicating his obligation to card for tobacco products. So it was predictable that someone was going to take exception with what seemed to be going on in the trailer. Sadly, it was also predictable that when N'Gai Croal did voice his opinion, an opinion which I will say up front that I vehemently disagree with, that the trailer seemed to indicate the potential presence of either racism or reflexive subconscious racism, that the gamer community was going to react with force and style roughly equivalent to the hammer of Thor as wielded by Stimpy. Seriously, guys, nothing but love. But as a group, some of us really fucked this one up. The guy had an opinion, okay? He offered it. and in return he got a hailstorm of vindictive bile and in some cases actual racism thrown at him. That's not cool. Especially since most of his criticism was less about the game itself, which of course neither he nor anyone else has played, and more about how, in his view, it spoke to a certain immaturity of gamers when it came to issues like race. Guys, calling him names makes him look right about that. Once again, I happen to think Mr. Croal is incorrect that Resident Evil 5 is or will likely be in some way racist. I mean, you know the bad guys are going to turn out to be rich white dudes anyway. It's Resident Evil. Keep that in mind. It's Resident fucking Evil. This franchise doesn't do challenging subject matter. This isn't Portal. Playing Resident Evil for thematic resonance is like listening to Dragon Force for the lyrics. You can do it and it'll be awesome in its own way, but only if you've got a really solid handle on the concept of ironic appreciation. We know two things. It's set in Africa and Chris Redfield is there, yes? Well, when Chris Redfield is back, there's a 98% chance that Umbrella is back too. So do the plot point math and just get ready for some heavy-handed moralizing about evil Western, read white, pharmaceutical companies are experimenting with medicine on the third world. Yeah, you just wait. That's going to be it. It's going to be the constant gardener, but with zombies breaking up the preachy parts instead of Rachel Weisz's spectacular breasts. As what was I talking about? Hi. Anyway, the anger was the depressing part of the reaction to Croal's criticism. The interesting part came in the recurring details, namely the fact that the same critique kept cropping up from annoyed white, generally younger gamers. If I may paraphrase,
OMFG, the only people who talk about racism anymore is black people. Get over it, yo.
And that, folks, is what you call the unwitting prescience of the stupid. Because understanding that gibberish is the key to getting a handle on race, gaming, and the rest of this mess. The first great debate about racism in America was just that, about racism. No one disagreed that racism existed. They couldn't. Everyone saw, realized, and understood what racism was and that it was real. Separate restrooms based on skin color were racism. There's no argument there. The debate was whether or not that racism was bad. The good guys won that debate, won it big. But that didn't mean racism went away. It got smaller, yes, but in many ways that just made it more insidious. No more color-coded drinking fountains or preferential bus treatment, yes, but it was still there, only now it's not readily visible to everyone, which is a problem. To many, I'd say most white people, especially young white people, racism is something that happened in the past. Their parents and grandparents could see the no-colored sign back then, but they don't see any now. You don't see the air of unease exuded by store clerks when the wrong type of people walk in. You can't quantify the frequency of police stops. So when dumb shits say that racism is only kept around by black people, they're not being duplicitous. Hearing their black acquaintances talk about racism is the only way they've ever encountered it. And that's our American race problem in a nutshell. Too many black people think racial inequality will never stop. Too many white people think it already stopped 40 years ago, and both of them think the other side is clueless, lying, or both. All that said and admitted, there's another dimension to this, and it's why I have to take exception with N'Gai Croal's view on the matter. The heart of his and others' criticism of what Resident Evil 5 could potentially be is that the game seems poised to perpetuate certain negative images of Africans, ones going back centuries to the origins of colonialism. The problem with this view, as I see it, is that the negative images they speak of did not originally occur in a vacuum. They were products of their time. They were designed to confirm negative presumptions that the white society already had about the so-called Dark Continent. They looked at caricatures of blacks and said, "Yup, that's them all right." By contrast, today most gamers look at the RE5 trailer and don't even think about racism until N'Gai Croal and others brought it up, meaning that they were fully able to look at violent, savage, zombie-like creatures who happened to be African and did not make an immediate connection between them and actual black people. Isn't that a good thing? Shouldn't we be celebrating this as evidence that the right side is still winning and things are getting better?
Yes, it would be nice if the gamer community and the country in general, honestly, was a little more educated about race and its depiction in popular culture. It would be preferable if the kids who didn't see any potential concern in this trailer had perhaps a better background in such things so they could at least understand the complaint and not be so blindsided by it. But naive though they may be, it's evidence that what they aren't is racist. And in the broad view, neither is the gaming industry. It just has a ways to go yet. placing it nicely is the same pace on the matter as the planet.